Hello everyone and welcome back to Witchinary. If you have yet to subscribe to this channel, then please do so because we are getting crafty, and today I wanted to share with you my creations using the Simon Says Stamp kit for February 2019. This kit is Valentine's Day themed, but with a very interesting vintage twist, which I thought was really dope. My favorite thing that came in this kit was definitely the stamp set itself because it brought different sentiments with a multitude of different typefaces, which I thought would give very great variation to any crafter's Valentine's Day stamps. And I also really love the pattern paper that came in this kit. As always, I'm going to link to this kit below so you guys can totally check it out and all of the goodies that it brings. To start off, I'm going to take my guillotine and I'm going to start cutting all of my pattern paper so I can kind of sort of have A2 size card bases, but I'm mostly focused on the strips that I'm cutting and putting to the side, and I'm going to kind of explain why I'm going to do this a little bit later. Once I'm done cutting all of my strips, I am going to go ahead and start folding my strips so I can make triangles out of them. And to do this, I mean, if you were ever in middle school and you send, notes to your friends behind your teacher's back and didn't get caught, then you probably know how to fold strips like this. I'm just going to take out my bone folder so I can go ahead and make sure that the lines where I'm folding are very prominent so I know where to cut with my guillotine. On top of just, having my guillotine out, the other supplies that I'm going to be bringing in for this card kit are some Tonic pearlescent cardstock, as well as some Fog Simon Says Stamp cardstock and some history cardstock from Hero Arts. I had already saved a lot of the cardstocks that came from the January kit for Hero Arts, and I just kind of wanted to bring it out because I thought that the shininess of those card bases would really add a very contemporary sort of feel to my cards. So I'm gonna spill the tea. I don't know how to make vintage cards, guys. Now you know the truth. You know the truth behind the Marissa Bell. But no, really. So my inspiration for this kit was actually the Hero Arts Roaring 20s kit that's coming out very soon. I really liked all of the geometry and the art deco that went into the borders of that stamp set, and when I saw it, I was starting to work on this card kit, and I was like, well, how cool will it be if I took that sort of geometric aesthetic from that era and I brought it into this card kit. And then I started remembering that back in 2011 to around like 2013, hipsters became a thing, and there was this really nice aesthetic going on of vintage motifs that kind of were juxtaposed against these geometric architecture like things. So you saw a lot of like those succulents that came in those terrariums that were really pretty, and I was like, how cool would it be if I modernized this vintage card kit using geometric shapes? And then that idea just kind of ran and I went with it. So here you have it. For this first card, I took a piece of Nina Solar White cardstock. I don't know why I started working on cardstock, but I made a card base out of it. And then I started kind of layering my triangles, so some would be lifted and some were not. The original triangles that I cut out were kind of big, so I just cut those in half and I got these smaller little triangles. And I just went ahead and made one huge triangle at the front of my card panel. And this was really cool because I was able to show all of the amazing vintage sort of styles of the cardstock. I mean, not the cardstock, the pattern paper. And, I don't think the aesthetic got lost too much. And not to mention, I think that these cards are perfect for someone who really likes that sort of modern look, but really appreciates a shabby chic sort of look. So I'm sorry if you guys expected me to kind of go a little bit more traditional with this card kit. It just I don't know, it took a mind of its own. I'm gonna border this awesome triangle with some of the Tonic strips that I had already cut out, and I'm also going to do another set of little panels that are parallel to the ones that I already adhered down. Once I was done with that, I adhered this card panel to a black card base, and then I took the sentiment that says, "You are my best friend for always, and I decided to just stamp that down with some Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink at the bottom. And once I was done stamping that down, that finished off this card. It was pretty easy. For my second card, I really wanted to play around with this history cardstock. I thought that the subdued sort of shine to it would be perfect for the vintage sort of aesthetic. And I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I was pretty pleased with how it actually looked. For this card, I really had no rhyme or reason. You can definitely start seeing that Art Deco inspiration in this card more than you could on the first card. It was definitely very Roaring 20s inspired, but with this very vintage sort of cardstock. So, I mean, pattern paper, I keep saying cardstock, I'm sorry guys. So, it kind of works. I don't know how to explain it. I really like the way that these looked. But yeah, I just had no rhyme or reason. I just kind of laid out my triangles wherever, and it was just kind of free-flowing. I really like the way that this card panel came out. But I did feel like it got kind of too contemporary somewhere in the middle. So I wanted to make sure that we still kept that feeling of Valentine's Day. So I started taking out the little heart stamps from the stamp set, and I started stamping them down with some Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. I did bring out some ultra matte black cardstock for some of these triangles because I felt like the pattern paper along with the history cardstock was becoming too washed out, and I wanted to make sure there was some color blocking involved in there so some of these pattern papers can really pop. To add to that pop, I also took more strips of Tonic cardstock, and I just started adhering them down to the edges of my triangles, and that really helped to bring out more of the life of some of these triangles. They definitely started popping a lot more, and it added this like really cool glam factor to my card. Honestly, this is a really cool technique to maybe try on the Roaring 20s Hero Arts kit, and I might bring a version of it back, or maybe I'll just adapt it so I can kind of keep playing around with it, and we'll see where it goes. But I thought this was really cool, and I really wanted to share it with you guys, and here we are. I thought this card was getting a little bit too contemporary. It wasn't getting that really feminine pink sort of vibe that the other card had, so I took a piece of Nina Desert Storm cardstock and I just made a nice little card panel out of it. I cut it to be slightly smaller than an A2 size card. It took me a little bit of trimming because I'm really bad with measurements. So once I was done doing that, I adhered my gray cardstock or my fog cardstock to this cardstock, and I go ahead and I just stamp down the sentiment, "You are my best friend for always," and then I adhered this card panel to my card base, and that just about wrapped up this card. For my third card, I really wanted to kind of play around more with the stamps that were in this set. So I took that beautiful heart stamp because it was my favorite one, and I took some Nina Desert Storm cardstock that came with this kit, and I just stamped it down with some Paper Source white embossing powder, and then I just fussy cut it out and put it to the side. Next, I'm going to take this floral pattern paper and I'm just gonna make a bunch of strips out of it. I really like that this was floral, so you can definitely already kind of have a lot of what you're going for with the you know, the mixing of hard and soft sort of aesthetics. And I just started kind of layering my cardstock, or like layering my strips, so that way I can make like a geometric sort of shape. I kind of was going for the Deathly Hollow symbol, and then this went Star Trek on me, and then it went Airbnb on me. I don't know, I just went with it, which is a really good testament to, like, if you want to do this and you're unsure, just keep going with it. It'll turn into something. Your brain will kind of fill in the blanks. I took some of the strips of tonic paper or cardstock, and I just kind of wanted to layer some of this shininess on top of this, just so I can make it look a little bit more intentional and just a little bit better. I honestly had no idea what I was doing. I was just layering paper, I gotta be honest with you. But anyway, yeah, so I just kind of layered on this paper. I did the same thing at the bottom, and I put a nice little strip in the center to match everything, so it kind of looks like a little envelope. And then I decided to kind of sneak in a few more of this pattern paper at the top, so it kind of does look like a succulent terrarium. And I was really pleased with the way that this looked, except that I didn't like the fact that you can see where all of those little pieces overlap. So I ended up taking a piece of vellum out and then cutting it to be like a nice little rectangle to go on top of this. That way you can kind of see the work that I did, but you don't see all of the overlap. I also decided to take some of the history cardstock and put it in these corners. Again, you can really tell where I was getting that Art Deco vibe from and where that inspiration came from. Guys, you are more than welcome to take this for that card kit if you want. I just really wanted to show it. So here is the vellum. I then just go ahead and adhere this heart down to my vellum using my tape runner. And once I was done doing that, I really wanted to have more of a feminine sort of feel to this card. So I took the sentiment, "You will always be in my heart," and if you think I was not singing Tarzan's "You'll Always Be in My Heart" by Phil Collins, you're sadly mistaken. I almost watched that movie while I was making this card because I was just like, oh my god, I have to hear that song. I put another strip of that tonic paper at the top. I raised this vellum up on some foam squares. Off camera though, I did put a little bit of my glue pen at the back of my lettering so I can adhere that vellum down so you can definitely see all the work underneath. And then I take my tape runner and I adhere this card panel to my card base, and that finished off this card. And this is probably my favorite. For my last card, I did want to at least use one of the pattern papers as a card panel. So I had all of these little triangles lying around, and I really wanted to use them because I did put a lot of time into just cutting all of those little things. So unfortunately, this card didn't go in the direction that I wanted it to go, and it's probably not my favorite one, but I'm really happy I made it because it still is really cute. I'm gonna do the same thing that I did on the second card, just kind of layer my triangles wherever I wanted, but instead of going in a top to bottom sort of way that I did with the second card, I'm gonna do just a centered more centered look. Wow, I'm sorry guys, it's kind of late. Anyway, I'm going to then use this musical note stamp just to kind of customize this pattern paper a little bit more. I'm going to put 2 strips down here and then another one at the top off camera. And then I'm going to start taking some of that tonic, those tonic strips, and I'm going to start putting them everywhere before I, decide which card base I'm going to use. I also really wanted to bring some of those hearts in that I did in my second card onto this card. So that way it kind of looks a little bit more feminine, a little bit more organic despite all of the little triangles. And guys, I'm not sure how I feel about the tonic strips on this card. I think it would have actually looked better without it because this one was probably the best at integrating that vintage vibe with more of the 2013 hipster look. But I think that the strips kind of took it to an actual Art Deco sort of look, and it didn't blend very well. So I don't know, it was a really weird design choice. I don't necessarily regret it, but I kind of regret it. Anyway, once I was done adhering all of those nice little strips, I then took a piece of cotton candy cardstock and I decided to put the same sentiment that I had for the first 2 cards. Although this stamp set did have a lot of different sentiments, I felt like the most appropriate one for my friends was definitely that "You are my best friend for always," so that's the one I used the most. I took a piece of cotton candy cardstock and I just stamped down that sentiment, and then off camera, and I'm sorry, I just didn't realize I was off camera, I made a little fishtail and I pointed the front of the sentiment so it kind of matched the triangles that were in the rest of this stamp set. And once I was done doing that, I just propped it up with some foam squares onto the bottom of this card base, and that wrapped up this card. Well guys, that just about finishes everything off. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want more about this, please go visit my blog or my website at witchinary.com. Thank you guys so much. And I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.